Brought to you by Videomaker Plus.
You may have finished writing your script, but it's still just a first draft. Most scripts need more than one draft to be ready for production. That means it's time for you to start editing. But how exactly do you edit a script? These 7 tips aim to help you answer that question, making the editing process much more manageable and less daunting. In the hustle and bustle, it's easy to forget, but your body needs rest. Our first tip is to take a break to recharge after completing your first draft. You've spent hours upon hours writing, and if you start editing right after you finish, your mind will be too worn out to edit effectively. By taking some time away, you'll be able to edit much more efficiently when it comes time to revisit your script. Taking time away from a script can be hard if you're working on a deadline, but even just taking a day or two to reset can make a world of difference. On the other hand, don't spend too much time away. There's a difference between resting and procrastinating. As you come back to your script, try to maintain some emotional distance from your work. Million-dollar ideas rarely come from the first few brainstorming sessions. If they came that easy, we'd all be millionaires. Great ideas ultimately come from revising and refining good ideas. It's a process that requires an open mind, which you can't have if you're clinging onto your first draft. It's very easy for a scriptwriter to become so attached to their original vision that making changes or cutting scenes is almost like giving up a child. But if you want your script to grow into something truly great, you're going to have to learn to let go and be open to major changes. Now that you're a bit more open-minded, our next tip is to evaluate each scene to make sure it's actually helping you tell your story. Every scene in your film has to have a specific purpose that helps move your story to its conclusion. Whether that purpose is to communicate a character's personality, reveal a plot point, or show a character's growth, it's imperative that all of your scenes add something to your story, not just fill screen time. Your script may contain a scene that you love. It has a hilarious joke or it has some striking cinematography planned. But if that scene doesn't further your overarching plot, cut it. Dialogue is where a lot of beginning film writers struggle. They write their films like novels, relying too much on words to tell their film's narrative. As you edit, consider where you can replace boring dialogue with a more exciting visual element. For instance, suppose there's a script with a lead female character who doesn't trust any man who reminds her of her father. If the script was written by a beginning screenwriter, they may rely too heavily on dialogue to communicate the protagonist's personality. She may even say directly, "I don't trust men who remind me of my father." It works, but it's bland. Instead, an experienced screenwriter would cut the dialogue and replace it with scenes where the female lead glares and avoids every man she comes across that resembles her father. This approach is much more compelling and more realistic than the former approach. By cutting all the unnecessary dialogue and replacing it with visual storytelling, your audience will be much more engaged in your film. It allows viewers to actively participate in the interpretation of your film's underlying messages. Now that you have trimmed all the fat from your script, you have to make sure that the pacing of your film is working for the kind of story you're trying to tell. Rearranging the order in which you present your scenes could help the emotional impact each scene could have on your audience. Changing the position of just one scene could change the entire feeling of your film. Reorganization is a powerful tool that can push your script from its beginning stages to being a polished and gripping work of art. Grammar and spelling matter to film producers. It communicates how serious and skilled you are as a writer. That's why it's important to spend time proofing your script. Think of it as a first impression for the producers. It's what they use to judge the initial character of your script, later helping them decide if they want to invest more time with your script to discover its true inner personality. Producers won't struggle to read through a script that's littered with grammar and spelling errors, no matter how good the story is. They'll likely assume you're not skilled enough to write a good script and move on. To make sure this doesn't happen to you, run your script through word processors that catch spelling and grammar errors. Then read it multiple times, both silently and out loud. Some errors can go unnoticed until you hear them outside your head. You can also hire professional editors to read over your work and make corrections if you aren't proficient with the finer details of grammar and spelling. Formatting is just as important as the actual writing process. All scripts follow a universal format, and yours should too. Some film producers won't even read your script if it isn't formatted correctly. If you aren't familiar with how a script should be formatted, do some research on script formatting requirements, or look for software that can help you format your script properly. Editing is a crucial process that is essential for writing a great script. Though the thought of editing can be a little daunting and confusing at first, it doesn't need to be a source of dread. If you keep an open mind and follow these tips, you'll be able to polish up your script in no time. Good luck out there, and thanks for watching.
Continued learning and practice, as well as taking refreshers on the basics, will help keep your skills sharp. Check out our video courses to stay on top of your game. Find a course by visiting videomaker.com/courses or click the link in the description.